From his first 4 small crops, he was the #2 sire in North America and Europe on apex figures, splitting Galileo and Warfront. He just looks the part. He exudes class. He looks like Northern Dancer. I mean, it's impossible to get better than that. When you know a horse is this good, you have to be able to push the chips out on the table and to play that hand. He's a superstar.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Spa Babies, presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm. I'm Dan Illman, along with Nicole Russo, and Saturday's Spa Baby race is a good one. We're going 5.5 furlongs, kicking off a 50-cent pick 4 with race number 4, a maiden special weight for 2-year-olds. We take a look at this field, Nicole, and it's already a gigantic afternoon on Saturday at Saratoga. War of Will and Tacitus in the Jim Dandy, Matoli and the Alfred G. Vanderbilt, a sensational betting race in the Bowling Green. But this Spa Baby race, in my opinion, is the saltiest from a pedigree standpoint that we've seen this entire meet.
I would agree with that. Just a lot of outstanding pedigrees in here. We'll talk about some of the notable names that come up that some of these horses are half siblings to. A couple of freshman sires represented here. Spendthrift Farm's leading juvenile sire Into Mischief, well represented here. His 2-year-olds are always ones to look out for. I think the 5.5 furlongs is going to be a little short for some of the horses in here from a pedigree standpoint. There are going to be a lot of them in here that I think we're going to want to circle and watch down the line, but it wouldn't surprise me to see some very nice horses come out of this race.
Well, we'll take the field in program number order, beginning with the coupled entry, the 1 Shoplifted, the 1A Soviet. They are the morning line favorite. Shoplifted, boy, this is, again, an Into Mischief top Spendthrift stallion. And just look at these auction prices. $525,000 as a yearling, $800,000 earlier this year after breezing a furlong in 10-1. The dam has already pulled 4 winners from 4 runners. There's the class of Miss Shop and Trap Shot in this family, and I've seen nothing but good workouts on this page. A 59 and change out of the gate. I have a feeling this Steve Asmussen colt can run.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be ready to run in this spot. Another thing is, from a calendar standpoint, we're getting a little bit late in the Saratoga meet, where if you're looking to perhaps get in a race, get in an impressive debut, and make something like the hopeful toward the end of the meet, you're sort of running out of time from a calendar standpoint. So some of these horses from these top outfits might be ready to come out running. Shoplifted, with that work you mentioned, certainly looks like the type. Leading juvenile sire Into Mischief on top, and you touched on that female family. Just a lot of speed, a lot of class, a lot of juvenile type class. The dam is a half to Fifth Avenue, who was a stakes winner and graded placed as a juvenile. The extended family, you see Miss Shop, who was a grade 1 winner, going longer, but also Power Broker, a grade 1 winner as a juvenile. Tin Type Gal, who was a graded winner as a juvenile, and Trap Shot, who was a multiple graded winner going shorter.
And we always encourage our friends at home to check out the Mike Welsh Clocker Report on drf.com. So much valuable information on the workouts with these 2-year-olds. And I did notice earlier in the meet that Welsh mentioned Shoplifted in a company work with Basin, who we saw win very impressively second time out for Asmussen. Exceeding the par for this maiden special weight level was Basin's win. I think Shoplifted's going to be ready to rumble. Now, his stable mate, the number 1, or actually his entry mate, the number 1 Soviet, it's Todd Pletcher as John Velasquez. It sounds great. It's a $425,000 yearling. It sounds great. There's class everywhere you look in this pedigree. It sounds great, but isn't it just a turf route pedigree?
Well, that's the thing. I can't ignore, the team of Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez with the 2-year-old at Saratoga. But I do find it very interesting that they're starting this one out on the dirt, and on the dirt going shorter. That's why I'm not the future Hall of Fame trainer. The Dam Ruthania was a graded winner on the turf, and a Full to Rutharian, a grade 1 winner on the turf. Ruthania has already produced a turf stakes winner. There is Super Saver on the top, and he's thrown some fast horses, Competitive Edge, who was a grade 1 winning juvenile, Run Happy, a champion sprinter. So perhaps Soviet tends toward the sire side, but I just can't overlook that female family.
You're right, Ruthenian, and Ruthenia is already full Publilius Cyrus, who was a nice stakes winner on the turf as a 2-year-old. So I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach with Soviet. And if you like Soviet, your price likely to get hurt because the entry makes shoplifted, bred for speed, the good workouts. This entry is going to take some money. The number 2 is No Bad Days, and this is an $85,000 yearling and a half-brother to a juvenile winner and a Grade 3 winning turf router named Brave Tin Soldier. Now, this is the first crop from Carpe Diem, and I think as the season progresses, we'll really see the Carpe Diems do better. I think he wanted a little bit more ground than this 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah, of course. Carpe Diem was a very fast horse. He was $1 million 2-year-old after breezing very well at a 2-year-old in training sale in Florida. But, he did come on later in his 2-year-old year where he was a Grade 1 winner around 2 turns at Keeneland, came back to win the Bluegrass the following spring. I do think they're going to be good juveniles, but they're going to want more ground. I've always pegged them as sort of the fall type juveniles. The female side of this family certainly backs that up a little bit. This one's out of an unraced full sister to Fusiichi Pegasus. You mentioned that she's already thrown a graded performing router, also the family of a Preakness winner in Pine Bluff. This one might be able to work out a little bit of a trip, though, drawn in toward the inside under Tyler Gaffleone, who's, having a very solid meet in this tough jockey colony.
But you did mention this pedigree might be geared for a little bit more distance, and the great veteran trainer Nick Zito usually likes to give them a race or two. He's old school. Past 5 years with the formulator fact for No Bad Days, 2-year-old debut runners in maiden special weight dirt sprints at Saratoga, 0 for 27. We'll move on to the 3 Leading West. This is a $90,000 yearling by the excellent juvenile debut stallion Distorted Humor. The dam was unplaced, and this is her first starter, but just look who the dam's half-sister is. Plum Pretty, winner of the Kentucky Oaks, another Grade 1 winner as well. The third dam was a graded stakes winner as a 2-year-old. So there is some pedigree here.
There is, and Plum Pretty was a really nice filly who ran against some nice fillies. I think it was a competitive group of 3-year-olds that year. She won the Kentucky Oaks. Leading West comes in with some sharp works, pardon the pun, for trainer Joe Sharp, and then what looks like a maintenance move last out here at Saratoga. Again, we'll encourage all of you to check out those Clocker reports from Mike Walsh and team, especially in a race like this where so many of them are first-time starters.
We have a Claiborne homebred up next. That's the number 4 Acre, who is a half-brother to Lee, who is really a top Grade 1 winning router, liked a mile in a 16th, liked a mile in an 8th. This dam has also foaled a Grade 3 placed turf router. Blame as a sire, 13% with 2-year-old first-time starters. But as with the Pletcher-trained runner, there is nothing but turf and distance on the bottom of this ability. And with Bill Mott behind the helm, I wonder if maybe Acre's going to need a race. I wouldn't be surprised with a good late run, a nice gallop out. We'll stretch him out on the weeds next time.
Well, that was kind of what I thought too. I think this is going to be a horse to take a wait and see approach with and see what they do with him. As you mentioned, Bill Mott, Claiborne Farm, and their longtime partner, Adele Dilschneider, they're not going to be in any hurry with this homebred. This one I think might want more distance. Blame, obviously did all of his work on dirt, but has been kind of a sneaky good turf sire. The half-brother Lee could run on both surfaces, winning the Grade 1 Don Handicap, a graded winner on turf. He could cut back to about a mile. In fact, he was second in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and then the Woodbine Mile on turf. I think this one might be able to run on either surface, but I do think he's going to want that ground later on.
Well, if you believe experience counts, then the number 5, Kowalski, is for you. He's the only horse in the field with any sort of experience. And for a Wayne Lucas-trained first-time starter to be bet down to 3-1 in a 12-horse field at Churchill Downs, the word is out that Kowalski could run a little bit, and he probably lost his race at the start. He was off about a length and a half slow. He settled in mid-pack behind a moderate pace. He had to come very wide into the stretch, and he was trying in the stretch to finish third. This is kind of a sprint pedigree on the bottom. I like the mixture with Will Take Charge on top. I think Kowalski might actually drift up off of those 3-1 debut odds in this salty field, and I expect a good effort.
Yeah, I expect some value on Kowalski, particularly with that coupled entry with the Steve Asmussen horse that we talked about. Up there on the program. I do expect Kowalski to take a step forward off that debut. He's come out of it with a couple of sharp works, and that to me, I like seeing that a young horse off their debut. I like when they come out of it sort of with their eyes open and they don't back off their work. You mentioned Will Take Charge. This is his second crop. This was a $225,000 yearling purchase by Peter Brand. First out of an unraced Bernardini mare whose first starter did win as a juvenile.
We'll move on to the 6, Little Harbour, and this dam has been very productive. Not only is she foaled 7 winners from 8 runners, but 3 black-type earners, including one Lucky Dane, who I believe placed in the Santa Anita Derby, obviously a Grade 1, and Western Smoke, who was a very fast and precocious 2-year-old, a Grade 3 winning sprinter at the age of 2. Little Harbour is from the first crop of Liam's Map, yet to sire a debut winner. Should we expect the Liam's Maps to want a little distance and experience?
You know what? I think they'll be able to win going shorter, particularly when you look at one like a female family, from a female family like this. You mentioned he's a half to a sapling winner, a lot of sprint and juvenile stakes performers under the second dam. I do think the Liam's Maps are going to want a little bit of experience and time, though, even at the shorter distances. He developed a bit later on in his career, of course, had his best season as an older horse, a brilliant miler who could stretch that a little bit longer, broke through with his first winner recently. As you mentioned, he has yet to have a debut winner, but Kelly Breen ships this colt up from Monmouth Park and he gets Jose Ortiz for his debut.
The number 7 is Complexifier, and while if you look at Complexifier's pedigree, you may not see the big names, the Fusaichi Pegasus, the Lees, the multiple graded stakes winners. This horse is bred for speed. He might be one of the horses best suited to running 5.5 furlongs on the dirt. He's a full brother to Psychoanalyze, who won his debut on dirt and was Grade 3 placed sprinting on the surface. Overanalyze, a very good juvenile debut stallion, and this dam was a good 2-year-old that won the debut. Not much of a buyer's standpoint, but I believe she won at Suffolk Downs, but this is a very precocious pedigree.
Well, and I think that's a very interesting point you make is, we talk about a lot of the pedigrees in this race where they're going to need the ground. It's a strong group. Perhaps they're here to get their feet wet. And then this horse is bred so well for this distance and for this debut. Overanalyze, came out firing as a very good 2-year-old sire, and you mentioned the full sibling Psychoanalyze, a graded place sprinter, pretty quick horse.
The second colt in the race by Spendthrift Stallion Into Mischief is up next. That's the number 8. Always Misbehaving. This horse sold for $300,000 in March, breezed a furlong in 10 at that sale. That was up from $210,000 purchase price as a yearling. Into Mischief does very well with everything, 15% winners with 2-year-old first-time starters. And this dam has foaled some nice horses like Hopeful Image, Dashing Debbie. I like the mixture in the pedigree. I like the bullet workout at Keeneland. I think this horse might be a little quick if you look at that sales video.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you mentioned Dashing Debbie. She was a stakes winner as a juvenile and is already a multiple stakes producer. A lot of class in the family. Another Into Mischief. I really trust those as juveniles. And if you believe in Into Mischief, you're certainly going to get a better price, I think, on Always Misbehaving than on the other Into Mischief representative in the race.
Well, they're going to run the Curlin Stakes at Saratoga on Friday, and the number 9 Sunman is a half to Smart Transition who won the Curlin a few years ago. Sunman sold for $375,000 as a yearling, of course, by the great classic stallion Curlin, 11% winners with 2-year-old first-time starters. The dam Zardana was known as Little Z in the Sheriff's Barn. We all know who Big Z was. It was Zenyatta, but Zardana could run on her own. Not only was she a graded stakes winner on a synthetic surface, but she beat Zenyatta's eternal rival, Rachel Alexandra, in one of the big upsets at the fairgrounds. This is a really strong route pedigree, especially with Curlin on top. I'm really curious to see what we get here, but I'm looking forward to watching this colt as the distances increase.
Yeah, I think this is another one that I circled who is definitely going to want more ground. You mentioned Curlin. Of course, we talk all the time about his record in the American Classics. They're bred to run all day. Zardano was at her best going longer, although she did win all 3 of her outings as a juvenile in Brazil, but a Grade 2 winner later on in the U.S. And as you mentioned, knocked heads with Rachel Alexandra, defeating her in the New Orleans Ladies. And with her stablemate Zenyatta, she was Grade 1 placed against that one in California. Smart transition, developed later on, a stakes winner at age 3. He was by Smart Strike, the sire of Curlin, so Sonneman bred on the same cross. You figure he's going to develop on a similar pattern.
There should be a future star or two just from a pedigree standpoint in race number 4. If these horses run to their pedigrees, there are some stakes horses in here. We kick off the pick 4 with race number 4. Who are you using?
You know, in terms of who you're using, I'm finding it very hard to look past Shoplifted. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be a very short price. But we mentioned that, you know, very nice workout. It looks like Steve Asmussen has him ready to run on debut. Pricey son of leading juvenile sire Into Mischief. Just a lot of class and juvenile ability on the bottom side of the pedigree. By comparison, I think Kowalski, who we mentioned is the only horse in the race with experience, that might be beneficial in a larger field, and he might drift up in value a little bit. I do think he's going, to come out of that debut and improve for Wayne Lucas and Peter Brandt. Underneath, to try to add some value, I probably will take a look at the other Into Mischief, always misbehaving, and Little Harbour, the Monmouth shipper, a little bit.
We've got the same exact. I think Shoplifted's going to come out running. I think he's going to put on a really good performance first time out for Asmussen. Kowalski showed enough in his debut with the experience under his belt. I think he's going to run. For me, my underneath horse is Acre for Bill Mott, who I think, again, is going to be meant for turf and routing down the road. But I wouldn't be surprised if this horse kicks a little bit late. We have seen the Mott, the rare Mott, 2-year-old debut winner sprinting on the dirt already at this meet. So I'm going 1-5-4, kicking off the pick 4 with Saturday's Spa Babies. And Spa Babies for the entire meet is presented by our great friends at Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.